crunch time
with Ryan Kordziel.
It's crunch time.
What a game! Unbelievable! What a game!
This is Kordziel Krunch
with Ryan Kordziel.
Hello and welcome to Kordziel Krunch. Today's installment will stray from the traditional format of Kordziel Krunch, and instead of focusing on one specific moment, I'm going to focus on one of the most improbable seasons in baseball history, 1968, commonly called the Year of the Pitcher. Pitchers have always been considered one of the top positions in baseball, as they still are today. In 1963, Major League Baseball defined the strike zone as the area between the top of the batter's shoulders to the bottom of his knees. This contributed to the rise of strikeouts, which culminated in the 1968 season, which saw the entire American League batting a dismal .230. While a .230 batting average by today's standards is accepted as part of the game, often accompanied by 30 or more home runs, at that time, such a dismal average was nearly unheard of for an everyday player. The New York Yankees, once the pride of baseball throughout the 1950s, batted a league-low .214, which is still the lowest team batting average in franchise history. The Oakland A's led the American League with a .240 average, and the National League barely beat them out, hitting a collective .243, the NL's worst average in 6 decades. Surprisingly, the Cincinnati Reds hit .273, the only team to hit above .270, with the Pirates and Braves tied in second, with pedestrian .252 batting averages. Pitchers in 1968 threw a combined 339 shutouts, almost double what they had the previous year. Among the best pitching performances in 1968 was a perfect game thrown by Jim Catfish Hunter on May 8th. This was the first perfect game thrown by an American League pitcher since 1922. Giants pitcher Gaylord Perry threw a no-hitter against the Cardinals on September 8th, outdueling fellow Hall of Famer Bob Gibson in a 1-0 victory. But the Cardinals got their revenge the very next day when Ray Washburn returned the favor with a no-hitter against the Giants, the first time in history that no-hitters were thrown on consecutive days. Dodgers pitcher Don Drysdale set a record by throwing 58 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings and 6 straight shutouts, finishing the season with a career-low .215 ERA. In Boston, Louis Tiant threw 41 straight scoreless innings, and hitters collectively batted .168 against him, an all-time low. The All-Star Game was no respite either, as the game was a 1-0 victory by the National League, with the lone run scored on a double play from Willie McCovey to bring Willie Mays home. Both leagues combined for 8 hits, while pitchers racked up 20 strikeouts in a game featuring the league's best hitters. Cardinals pitcher Bob Gibson, who finished the season with an astounding 1.12 ERA, won 15 straight decisions after starting out 3-5. Including a streak of 95 consecutive innings where he allowed just 2 earned runs. This streak included a run of 48 2/3 innings scoreless before the Dodgers broke it up. Gibson's 1.12 ERA was the second lowest in baseball history, behind only Dutch Leonard's 1914 season, where he had a 0.95 ERA. In the American League, another pitcher was mastering the art of the craft. Detroit Tigers hurler Denny McLain was mowing down hitters, winning 10 games in the first 2 months of the season, and finishing with a 31-6 record and 1.96 ERA to help the Tigers win the American League pennant. He finished the year with 280 strikeouts against just 63 walks, a 4.44 strikeout-to-walk ratio, that stood as a Tigers record until 2016. McLain was rewarded by winning the American League Cy Young and MVP awards. His 31-win season was the first 30-win season by a pitcher since Dizzy Dean in 1934, and no one has come close to winning 30 games since. The season culminated in the World Series matchup everyone wanted to see, with the Detroit Tigers and St. Louis Cardinals facing off. Game 1 saw Gibson and McLean on the mound, and Gibson won the battle by shutting out the Tigers 4-0, allowing just 5 hits while collecting a World Series record 17 strikeouts. In Game 2, Mickey Lolich allowed just 1 run in a complete game, and the Tigers defeated the Cardinals 8-1. After a high-scoring Game 3, which saw a 7-3 victory by the Cardinals hammered the Tigers even worse in Game 4 with a 10-1 victory. McLean struggled in rainy conditions and gave up a leadoff home run to Lou Brock in the first. Gibson pitched a gem and helped his own cause with a home run in the fourth. In Game 5, the Tigers came back from a 3-0 deficit in the seventh and won the game 5-3. But in Game 6, the Tigers were dominant as they scored 2 runs in the second and 10 in the third and never looked back, winning 13-1 on Jim Northup's grand slam and an Al Kaline homer, leading up to the pivotal Game 7. It was a baseball fan's dream matchup. Bob Gibson versus Mickey Lolich. Game 7 of the World Series. Winner take all. 6 scoreless innings to start the game before Curt Flood misplayed a ball in the outfield as it landed over his head and scored 2 runs. The Tigers won the game 4-1 and captured their first world championship in 33 years. Major League Baseball had a problem. At least that's how owners and executives saw it. The Rules Committee met shortly after the season ended and amended the league rules. They lowered the pitcher's mound from 15 to 10 inches and standardized this in every stadium. They restored the strike zone to its 1962 levels, defined as from the armpits to the knees of a batter, and added 4 new teams for the 1969 season: the San Diego Padres, Kansas City Royals, Montreal Expos, who relocated to Washington, D.C. in 2005, and the Seattle Pilots, who went bankrupt after 1 season. Prior to the 1970 season, the Pilots would be purchased by an ownership group led by Alan Bud Selig and moved to his hometown of Milwaukee as the Brewers, bringing Selig to the front lines of baseball to begin a career that would eventually land him in the commissioner's office as the most powerful man in the game. That'll wrap up this episode of Kordziel Krunch. Join me next week when I take a look back at another iconic moment in sports history. For Kordziel Krunch, I'm Ryan Kordziel. Thanks for listening.
Kordziel Krunch
With Ryan Kordziel.
Ryan Kordziel. Crunch time.